I welcome you all in the Art University in Linz, in the Department of Sculptural Conceptions Ceramics. And I'm very glad that we have two artists today here speaking about their work, Chuma Maweni and, Madoda Fani. And I'm very glad about that because I talked to Genoveva several times. Do you have some artists in your museum and whom we could invite for a talk? Because I think it would be a good cooperation. And now it worked. So I'm very glad and I'm very interested to hear about your work.
Yeah. So this is Chuma Maweni and this is Madoda Fani. They just arrived before the weekend from Cape Town. Cape Town is part of the province of West Cape. It's really huge and they have a very interesting artistic scene, and we are very happy to invite the two of you and one more artist. If we have time, we would also like to introduce you, so he will join us this Sunday. I would like to briefly talk about the Academy of Ceramics. This is the project we run from the OÖ Landes-Kultur GmbH. And the Academy of Ceramics is a program Alfred Weininger, so our director who also joins our talk, established last year together with the Gmundner Keramik and together with my colleague Veronika Schreck. So she's the head of collection and she's really establishing the ceramics collection in terms of the historic ceramic, so applied art and fine art. And together, the three of us, we established this artist in residency program. And since Alfred Weininger has quite a good connection to South Africa, you met there. And we are very happy that you really followed our invitation. So this year we will have also a very interesting group of artists. Two of them are here. And I would also like to introduce Chio Aono. She's actually studied here in this department already a while ago, and luckily you stayed in Austria and in Linz. So we are very interested in your work because it's also very it has a quite range also from fine arts, but really also you're doing some pottery, and this is also kind of the range the Gmundner Keramik has as one of the oldest manufacturers in Europe, and actually one of the last ones who really still produce at their original site. So the history in Gmunden goes back for 500 years, and of the Gmundner Keramik since 18th century, and on this very spot where it's today, till the beginning of the 20th century. Yeah, but I don't want to take too much before you, because you're Madoda Fani will start. He's born in South Africa. I think he's very much connected really to Cape Town, so to the city of Cape Town, and he also studied fine arts and became, through, I would say, through the through graphic design, or especially drawing, which you can also see in his body of work. Still, he came to the ceramics, and he's one of the, I think, the most well-known artists dealing with ceramics. And there is a very rich tradition, a tradition which might be also very inspiring for you, because it has another context. And Chuma Maweni, he will follow. Chuma is born in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, and you also live and work in Cape Town. And Chuma, he's really trained also in Port Elizabeth, and also in a fine art, or in an academy, but he is really trained in ceramic design and fine art.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Madoda. My surname is Fani. as she mentioned, that I was born in Cape Town, in the small township of Gugulethu. Yeah, if you look at the map of Africa, Cape Town is in the tip of the African continent. So as I was born there, if you look at this picture, because some people, they would ask them questions, why, what is happening with this picture? I think in 19, because I grew up loving to draw, like on sand sometimes, because my parents didn't realize that I had talent for drawing. So I would like to draw on sand and all that, but I think this was created in 1986. If you look at Cape Town, we have a history of Mandela being in prison for 27 years. So Cape Town was very close to the Robben Island. So the island was just next to us. We could see it sometimes if you're going to Cape Town. So most of the protests would come from Cape Town, wanting for our people, the government to free Mandela. So there was a lot of protests, a lot of people who burned tires. So the townships were very, full of smoke. The walls were full of smoke, So the riots, I think they started in 1984 up until 1987. So in 1987, they stopped, and then now we had to go around and clean the city. So there was a program that was created there called the Keep the Cape in Shape. So which they go around the township schools, the primary schools, looking for young kids that would go around and paint murals on the walls. So in my school, I was one of the kids that was selected to go and paint a mural. So this is a mural that I painted in 1987. At that time, I was 12 years old. So one would ask themselves questions that I didn't have a camera at that time, but I managed to keep this picture because it stayed in that wall for close to 20 years. So up until I managed to buy myself a cell phone, I took a picture. So I think after that, after a couple of weeks later, they painted an advert, I think a Coke advert after that. So it was waiting for me to take the picture. So this is one of the pictures that kept me, because as I was growing up, I kept on passing that street and looking at it. So it kept me, telling me that I've got talent, I should become an artist. So in my upbringing, it was a very normal upbringing as a young kid. I grew up as a Boy Scout. If you look at these kids, this is me with a big afro. So I grew up, I had a normal upbringing. I can't say I was like suffering or anything like that. So my upbringing was very normal. So after I passed my matric, I went and studied for fine arts in the college in Gugulethu called the Civil College. So all my schooling I did in Gugulethu. So in my college, I did it in Civil College, which I was majoring in art of drawing, computer graphics, ceramics, graphic design. Ceramics was one subject that I hated because you'd get dirty when you're doing it. So I was interested in doing graphic designing. But over the years, after I completed my diploma, I looked for a job because I also wanted to continue with graphic designing and get maybe to a nice college. So I looked for a job, and then the first job that I got was to become a ceramic painter. So these were the first 3 pieces that I painted, in 1999 when I started working. So I painted these 3 pieces, and I think I started in June working professionally, and then I think in November there was a competition, an African competition that was in Burkina Faso called the Art d'Africa, Salon de Art d'Africa. So it was a competition that was including each and every country that they can produce, they can take out people. So in that competition, I was invited because I was just entering because of just trying my luck. But they invited me over to Burkina Faso to participate in the whole exhibition, and I won the 2nd prize, which for me that was something that made me to look exactly now this is what I wanted to do, because my dream as a graphic designer just fade away from that moment. So this is a product that we started doing when I was working at the potter's shop. So what would happen here? Someone would slip cast a bowl, and then they would give it to us to paint. So I did this kind of work for many years, painting. So, but at school they taught us how to do hand building and all that. But here I started to change, because now I was so bored with slip casting. So I was starting to carve. As you can see that now, those vases, they would come to me as a very straight vessel, but I'll start carving and just even cut the edge instead of having the round edge. So this is the program. This is a product that we used to do when I worked for the potter's shop. So as you can see how young I was at that time. You know, so yeah, these are some of the bowls that we did. And we like to do the African print. Sometimes we do the Ndebele print. So we would use 3D, we call them 3Ds. It's a cube that you would put paint inside, and then you use that 3D to do those dots. And also the inspiration for us was always animals and plants, you know, and yeah, that was the most, we mostly focus on those kind of inspirations. So as the years goes, I started to become, you know, I wanted to do less color. So this is some of the sketches that I did, which also inspired by insects, because I looked at insects for inspiration. Because also for me, what fascinates me about insects is if you look up close to them, you see a lot of detail that you won't see when you look at it from a distance. So this is now a piece later, after I've just resigned working for the potter shop. So I started my own company. So this is some of the work that I did, which is now, is a bit, because I had to do something different from the company that I used to work for. So this is the creation that I started doing for myself. So as you can see, there's still that love of color, but also now the insects, the inspiration was always there. So I'll always do insects, but still I was still doing the slip casting, because I was still too lazy to do my own coiling. I felt like it takes time. So slip casting for me, I was like just slip casting. So it was always doing something different, you know, every time, because every time I do a piece, I don't like to repeat a piece. I would like to do something different from the one I did. So this is also a range that a couple of years later, I did this kind of a range, which now I was inspired also by the contrast between the matte and the glaze. Because here what I would do, I would use the transparent glaze and also put it in that cube. I would put underglaze, a black underglaze underneath, and then use the tube to highlight the glaze on top. So also, if you look at it with your eyes, then it's a very amazing and beautiful piece. So these so this also, so as you can see, it's almost identical, but not exactly, because of the patterns that are different. So also these are the bowls that I did, which now I'm trying to move away from color, just to make simple bowls, and then also just to color, just highlight a little bit with that insects. So this is some of the vases that I did as well. So some of the sketches that I used to do, which I happen to sell them, because people, they just tend to love them. So I frame them and I'll sell them. So I like to stylize, like I would look at the cockroach, you know, as ugly as it is, but I would stylize it, make it beautiful. So now here, also when I started working with Chuma at Art in the Forest, so now I just wanted to drop color totally, so that I can just do white on white. Even if I do black, I would do black on black. So I've always played around, you know. And this is some of the latest work that I did at the Art in the Forest. This is a teapot this is the lid, and then you find a spout on the front there. So it's a functional teapot. You can use it, and this one as well. But this one it can show on top that it's a lid. So these are some of the items that we would do for production. So this would be production works. Like if someone wants a set of bowls, so I'll also do this. But this is a technique that I developed myself. You know, the color combination as well. So this is now also a plate that I did for. It was a collaboration between me and him. So Chuma would do the sculptures, I would do the painting. Same here. Chuma, I think he did the sculpture there on top and the throwing of the bowl as well. He would throw the bowl and then I would just come and do the decoration. So this is the whole set that we did. So these were later, before I left that company we used to work for. So these were for a hotel in Zimbabwe. These were lamp shades. So you put a lamp base and then you put a lamp shade and the bulb. So we did that. These items were about close to 400 because we did it for every floor. So there's a green floor and then there will be a beige floor and there's a red floor. So it was a lot of work, but yeah, we managed to do it. So now this is more very, very recent work, which now also is inspired by a lot of things. Like it's inspired by landscape. It's inspired by I like watching movies. You know, the Japanese, they've got the body armors, and also I've combined that with the armadillo, the animal. So which are also inspired by that. And then I used a very traditional way of making ceramics. Yeah, I didn't use glaze because now I've grown and I thought, let me just move away from glazes. So the traditional way of making these pots was to smoke fire them. Instead of using a glaze, you use a stone to burnish a pot, so to make it shine. And then also these pots are very low fired. And the carvings, I used different tools, like your surgeon knife to carve. So these are some of the latest, yeah. So also this, if you look at this part here, so you've got those, what do you call those stones? It's, no, the stones are. Yeah, they come in different size, shapes and sizes, yeah. But this one is called, the stone that I use here is, stone, it's brown. Tiger's eye, yes. So it's the precious stones from the river that you can do, and I've just saw a lot of them here, which they are very scarce at home. So I think I'm going to go home with a full bag of them. So also this now is inspired also by our, you know, very rich heritage of cows, because for us cows they mean a lot, you know. The value of a man in Africa, it's about how many cows do you have, you know. That's, cows are our bank, you know. If you want to get married, you pay cows instead of, but now these days money, cows are, they've transformed them into money, but they will always say to you they want 50 cows, you know. So you know that 50 cows, one cow is 1,000 rands, so 50 cows will be 50,000. So this is one work that also is inspired by our heritage. So this is also the detail. But here, because if you can see from the distance, there's some sort of a round part there. So what I did, I like also surprises. I would put something inside before I do the whole pot. So it's an element of a surprise. Because someone would look at it, hope that they would see something inside, and then once you peep inside, you will see maybe there's a cow inside as well. So this is one of the pieces as well, the latest piece. These were pieces were in Miami, designed Miami last year. Yeah, so this part here. So what I would do the first row here, and then I would put something inside, and then I would create something on the other side. So I'm always, because if you look at my first work, I think when I started to lose color, my focus now was on the detail. So all of the detail, sometimes people, they would say it will take you forever to do, but I've managed to find ways of making it easy for me. So a pot like that, this is like this size of a pot. To carve all that, is all carved by hand, and then it will take me like 3 to 4 days to finish it. But it's a very, fulfilling work, because for me, when I work, I always visualize the finished part instead of like looking at the time that is going to cost you to do it, So I'm always looking forward to when it's finished. This is also a stool, which is a table that is also have a plate on top. So you can remove that plate and you put a glass on top, and then you can put a plate on top of the glass, or else you can use it as with the plate. So this is some of the design, like to play around with forms as well, because now I've started to change, to not look at the design, also to just look at forms, just to do different kinds of forms. So this is one of the forms that also I just did. So this is the color of the clay that we have. So when it's baked, it's not being smoke fired. This is the color that it would be. So to smoke fire this, we use a can, like a steel can. You put it inside the can and you use just newspapers. So the more dark you want it to be, the more you keep on feeding with newspapers. So it takes like 30 to 40 minutes to become that dark. And also, if you want a texture, you can apply clay on some parts that you don't want the smoke, so that after the firing of the smoke firing, you can wash off that, and then it will give you a nice texture. And after that, we would use shoe polish to make it shine. These are some of the classes. Sometimes I would go for classes for sculpture, which also they improved my sculpting. So now this is a latest adventure, which now I just wanted also to do something different from ceramics. So this is a wood table that I just produced. So that's the size of that table. I produced it as a table, but people, they just felt like it should be a chair, So people are using it as a chair, which I don't mind. So this is the gallery that represent our work. So this was the first time that I produced that. And this is also a latest project that I've been a part of. I was working with BMW. So they just produced the EX7. So it's not a hijacked project, because we had to go to Germany to ask for permission to do it. So they gave us permission. It's not something that we just did it on our own. So, but I transfer the design that I do on ceramic to the car. So every design that I did was also to just accommodate the car with the movement and everything. So here, as you can see, they had my signature there, so that they must know that I'm the one who did it.
Did you paint directly on the car, or did they produce a foil which was applied to the car according to your design? I
designed on paper, and then took it to someone. We worked on a computer so that we can do a wrap. Because it's a wrap also that because if you look at the color, it changes. Sometimes it becomes red, sometimes it becomes, so we also had to import that, So yeah, because I had help to do that, yeah. So this is a video of how I did the table.
Yeah, that was quite wet. Yeah, and now this is material, it's not a material that I'm used to. So I had to use a dremel machine. So I decided to do the carving so that it can be three-dimensional. So also it can move around the piece.
Definitely, I mean, there's definitely like that form of movement, and your pieces almost seem alive.
Yeah. As I became so fascinated about the armor, the body armor of the Japanese, the armadillo, the animal, also it fascinates me a lot.
Right.
So I looked at that, but I didn't want to make that exactly, so I had to stylize it, make it my own.
Right.
So because I wanted my own signature, something that when you see it in wood, it's going to say me. If you see it in bronze, it's going to say me. Because if it was my first time working in wood, it took me about 2 weeks to finish the whole carving. When I use my hands to finish up the piece, I feel like I also apply my energy into the piece. Unlike if it was done by everything by machine, but now I also take part into finishing up the piece. Singabantu asizalwanga ikwekwe liyinxalenye yokukhula kwethu. Ikwekwe sisikhuseli sethu. Ikwekwe liyinxalenye yokukhula. Inspiration.
So yeah, this is who I am, and I'm hoping I'm still growing from this. This is just a beginning for what I feel. Thank you.
Yeah, I found it interesting that your very first work was really related to things recently happening, no, in your surrounding, or the one that you did as a child still.
Yes.
Cool. And I wondered if there's also some relation to things happening around you from the works you do recently, or like.
Yeah, I think there are relations because, as I was saying, that this kind of work, I use traditional methods to do it. So my background, my family background is from the Eastern Cape, which is the rural areas. So I'm born in the city. So there are items that they were used like long time ago, like your beer pots. That were used as traditionally when we're doing a traditional ceremonies. So the work now that I did, I started doing those traditional beer pots that were forgotten that were used by our ancestors. So I'm now bringing them back to the modern day so that they can be used, because also the reason for using them at that time. So it's one of those things that were lost when we were moved from the rural areas to the cities. So I'm just trying to bring the old stuff back, so that we can, relive the memories of our ancestors. So I think that's the relation that I have with my work at the moment.
And where would you love to see your works? Like, is it also about using them, or is it?
We are using them. Yeah, we are using them, and also because we have this belief of connection with the ancestors. So they are, we in the olden days, they would use a beer pot to drink umqombothi, which is something that you would share Like even when we are around here, like this amount of people would use one beer pot for everyone. But now things have changed. You know, we are living in the modern days, and then people now, they started to using metal pots to drink because they don't break and all that. So, but for me, my belief is my ancestors, they would be happy if you can go back to the roots and still use the same method that they were using before. Sure.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I wanted to say thank you for sharing your journey, because I think for us as students, we sometimes are really stuck in the moment because we only, maybe sometimes we forget that there is a process and there will be a process with our works. And I really like when someone shares like the whole journey of how work can develop in which ways.
Yeah, yeah. To add on that, because it was not an easy journey, you know, it's ups and downs. But you know, if you put your focus on the end of the journey, then the ups and downs shouldn't count, but they should be there. Sure.
When you start the carving process, can I ask about that? Like, did you do outlines for everything? Because I'm just wondering how you can manage to do such precision. It's
Yeah.
like
I do outlines, but I'm hoping we spoke about that. We should do like a workshop, which is Andile is coming as well. So it would be nice to come here and just to demonstrate, you know, a few hours or so. So we're still here for 2 months, so I think that would be possible. So we'll discuss it, but we are people that are like, we love to share, you know, also because by sharing you're learning, you know. So yeah, but I do have outlet, like I use pencils to highlights, but I'm not like, I won't be like specific, just highlights, quick highlights, and then I would use my tools then because I know where to cut and where to carve.
I have a question. What's the ceramic art scene like in Cooks, in Guguletu? In
Guguletu, there's not, I would be the one ceramic artist, but there's few that are looking up to me now, which is something that is, I believe is growing. But around the Cape, it's a big scene. You know, because if you look at that work, I used to use color a lot. When I wanted to stop using color and now do traditional work, I needed to relocate to Johannesburg. Because in Johannesburg, you get artists from KZN that are still using those beer pots. You know, so I needed to mix up with them, learn from them. You know, so that when I go back home, at least I've got that knowledge. You know, but I think now, especially now, Cape Town is the place to be for ceramics. Yeah.
Madoda, would you like to share with us what you're going to do in Gmunden? So what's your impression, and do you think that you will be able to take out from there?
You know, one thing I'm positive I'm going to take out is the fact that you don't have load shedding. You always have electricity. You know, so because yeah, in Cape Town, I mean in South Africa, the whole country, we've got this problem now of, we call it load shedding, which is you've got power cuts for 3 hours sometimes. So especially for ceramic artists, you know, our work, it needs quite a lot of hours to reach temperature, you know. So what I was doing at the moment, I would take my ceramic work as greenware and travel with it like kilometers away from the studio. So the way I created my work now is because I would create it to make sure that it survives from here to there. So also it doesn't allow me to be flexible to do whatever I want to do. Now I'm working for survival of the work. But when I'm here now, the kills are just here. So, so I think that's one thing I'm going to take from here. And then, yeah, everything else is going to come after that.
Good afternoon. Guten Tag, I think that's what they say. Good day, right? My name is Chuma. We've got a lot of cliques in South Africa, especially. I'm a Xhosa person. Born and bred in South Africa, Eastern Cape, to be exact. it's yeah, it's a province close to the Western Cape. So that's where I was born and grew up there. And in Port Elizabeth, and then 10 years, that was 1986, as he was starting to draw murals, my father decided that because of the riots that were happening at the time, Port Elizabeth was still under the rule of South Africa, of the South African government, which was the Boers. And we had to move from our home in Port Elizabeth to our original home, which was in Transkei, so that we can be able to study and continue with our education. And when we were there, when I was there in Transkei, when we got there, my cousin, you can go to the other slides, Mom. You can go to the next one. The next one. So this is the village that I went to in Transkei, that I grew up in for the next like 4 or 5 years, and that's where clay was introduced to me. And it was introduced by my cousin right there. That's why I took a picture. I was like, okay, let me just put this picture there, because he introduced me to it, and we started making clay cows, just playing around, and then we would like do a whole fight about them. Put them, then you break the horn and stuff, and then you win and all those things. So those are things that were new to me. I didn't even know what clay was. All I knew was that there's 3 kinds of clay of soils. There was loam soil, which is the brown and the one that you can use for planting your crops, and the sand soil, which you find in the sea, that you can use for buildings. And then there's clay. So I didn't know what that was exactly. And then they finally told me and showed me what that is and what it does. Still at this point, I know nothing. And so that was an introduction to clay. I can go to the next one, Ma. And years later, so this is now after the liberation of Mandela, went back to South Africa, to Port Elizabeth, started high school and did my tertiary, first year, second year, third year. We did there like ceramics, graphics, stained glass, sculpture, painting, all of it. And also, just like Madoda, I didn't want to do ceramics at all, because I thought I was going to be a doctor, sitting there with my white coats and helping people. Or I would be a pilot, or somehow maybe sitting in an office, clean. But then I found that the office is not going to be my thing at all. So as I started drawing during all those years before this, my older brother was like, how about you look into art and design? I'm like, what? I'm like, no, look at graphic design. I'm like, okay. Looked at graphic design, like, okay, this is nice. Maybe I could do it. Tried it, and I tend to excel in ceramics. And so my lecturers decided to try and recruit me into their program that they were starting in 1999. So I went, okay, fine, I will go into it. Because for graphic design, they wanted 17 students, and there was like 70 of us in the whole first year, and only 17 were chosen. So I was like, okay, fine, that's all right. I'll try another time. But then they came and said, Chuma, how about ceramics? So that's how I got into ceramics. That was in 1999. So we did the whole first, second year, third, until I did my bachelor's degree, which is, I think, the equivalent of an honors degree or something like that. I'm not sure here how it goes, but I did that and worked for different studios. I worked for CSIR, a research company in South Africa, scientific research and all that. And later on, after I was done with that stuff, I came to Cape Town in 2006. 2006, worked for a company called Art in the Forest. They were doing, actually it was called Life from Africa Foundation. So they were making everything in ceramics that was holding candles, which is why you're seeing candle holders, candles over there, candle over there, everything has candles. And that's when I started actually having freedom of actually finally expressing myself and do my ceramics instead of only going and just training other people. Now, I call this series a boardroom series because when I got there, that's when I was introduced into boardrooms. And I was like, oh, okay, this is not my thing. Why am I in a boardroom? Why am I in a meeting and discussing serious stuff? I just want to go and make some stuff. And so while I was there, like, oh, okay. Then I started looking at how people are behaving and stuff. Like, okay, fine. Now there's a chairman, there'll be a secretary, there'll be that, there'll be that. So that's the chairman. She's a secretary. I forgot who she is. That's the wise man over there. And then that's a naughty guy over there with his cigarette. You know how a fox is. Foxes will always grow up as a fox would be the one who's like clever and trying to cheat people and doing stuff. So that's why I did. So I made them as characters, these guys. And so that was the whole thing. And the inspiration was from obviously African animals, your lion, which is part of the Big Five in South Africa. So there was a time in that company when they were concentrating more on the Big Five. Then I started just introducing other animals like the chimpanzees, baboons, foxes, the birds and everything, eagles and stuff. So yeah. The next one, ma'am. And so working in that company for 10 years, doing different candle holders. And also in those candles, trying to bring myself into them instead of just being told about, okay, do this like that, do it like that. And I try to bring my own ideas and to show how that is. And then while I was there, I think it was 2 years before I left, I said to them, I want to make my stuff. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, no, I want to try and see what I can do when that belongs to me instead of something that I'm told to do for a company, something that's not going to really belong to me. So I wanted not to do things that people are going to say, that is Maweni there. And so there were difficulties about that, fights and stuff. And then I remember I was sitting in the studio and thinking, and then I started crying. And the teardrop just fell on the table while I was actually sketching up some stuff or whatever on the table on canvas. And the teardrop just fell on, and then I started just drawing a teardrop. And I came back the following morning feeling a little bit better. I looked at all those things that I did. Then the teardrop stood out, and I was like, oh, how about I do that? And then, that could be something that you can open, something that you can use. A teardrop came like that. Then I started making these guys, a lot of them. So that's the thing. So some of the things that inspire us could be good stuff, good things, and sometimes it can be bad memories or fights and all those things. I mean, they all come together, and all those things are things that actually build characters into people, like how you would be as you are growing up, or what you will be, and so they're all like layers that are being laid on you, either to toughen you up or to weaken you and stuff. But if they are trying to weaken you, then you don't allow that to happen. When you stand up and you push on. All right. So that came out. And so a few years later, 2016, I decided to resign at Art in the Forest. And at that point, I didn't know where I was going to go. And already Southern Guild, the gallery that represents us, had invited me into an exhibition, which they were calling a new wave. So it was a new wave of artists that they wanted to grow. And I happened to be one of those artists, luckily, as I was just resigning. And then luckily again, Madoda allowed me to come and work with him in his studio, started producing stuff. We had some collaborations also, some pieces that we made, the two of us. And so I made these for that gallery. And these ones, specifically these three, were They were auctioned at the Christie's auctioneers in London. That like blew my mind because I think everybody knows what Christie's is, and I was like, eh? There's like a lot of possibilities that were just coming out all of a sudden. After I was so scared, not knowing what I'm going to do, I had just gotten married. How am I going to feed my wife? How am I going to do everything if I leave my job? And then these things started happening. And you can go to the next one, no? So those are the things that pushed me. And so I started developing it, and after I've been making the other like stools and everything, I decided to also start carving and also making them black. So on the inside, there's a green glaze in them, which is also like, becomes a surprise when people see them. Because sometimes I would just say, oh, I want 5 of those, I want 10 of those, I want this, I want that. And I would make them, pack them, and give it to them. Like, okay, your package is coming. And then it gets there, and then the person, they unpack and have a look, and what? Then they see the color on the inside, which is green. Because sometimes it would be just a normal thing or nothing inside. So I would like mix a glaze, white with green, then it does some speckles and marbling and all the stuff. And then they get surprised, which is a nice feeling when they call and say, actually, we love this. Maybe we should have paid more. Like, yeah, you can still do. But it's okay. And yeah, you can go to the next one. Huh? So when I was working, when I just started working, these 3 pieces were also the first one that I started making as I resigned, joining into this. So the influence is from him in a way, because he was making shapes that were doing that. Then I was like, oh, let me make that, but let me not do the smoke firing as he did. And I thought, let me do these 3 things. So these 3 items here, they kind of like represent me. You know, everybody needs to be anchored into something, like your beliefs and all that. Those are things that should be grounding you. So the anchor itself, as we know, the ship comes into the port, then they anchor it so that it doesn't move. So those are the things that people would say to me, okay, no, we don't think that is all right, this is not. Then you stand and say, no, these are my values, and this is how I want to do life. Yeah, but I will take advices from people there and there, but this is where I'm standing about certain things. So the anchor represents that. Then the propeller, what is it that is pushing me? So getting married, having a child, and all those are things that actually push me to keep going. As scary as it is, keep going, come to Europe, do some stuff, go to the States, keep going all the time. Yeah, so that's what the propeller is doing, as it does for the ship, as it goes forward. And then the steering, where is it that I'm going? Am I just going blind into the abyss or what? I have to see where I'm going, and I need to steer that. Yeah, and so as for my family, the 3 of us, myself and my wife and my child, we need to know where we're going, and I need to steer that as the husband or the head of the house. They say the man can be the head of the house, but the wife is the body and the neck. So the neck will tell where to look. So it will tell where the head should be turning and stuff. So my wife does that. He's like, okay, no, it's where you are. Yes, but how about you do that? How do we do that? How do we do that? Okay, now I see what you mean, my love. We do that. And so I might be the head, but my wife is my body and my soul and everything for me. And yeah, so those 3 pieces represent that in my life. And then as the time went by, I started making some smoke-fired pots with Madoda. I learned how he was doing the whole burnishing and the firing in the drums that we're using, and how the finishes were coming out like, and I fell in love with those. But now I had to be different from what he was doing, and not copy his work, because that obviously will create a clash. I don't think we'd be sitting here if that was the case. If that was the case, then we'll probably be enemies. So I thought, you know what, let me just come and make some shapes. So I started taking the beer pot and not making just a beer pot. I'm like, let me just try and do something different to the beer pot. And shapes started coming, and one of them was a musical drum. So that would be the beer pot over there, and then those drums that people use. I'm not gonna say they are African. They belong to everywhere. I mean, everybody does have those drums that they play. So that is from those. So that's why I call them igubu. Igubu is actually a music drum. All right. All right. And umkhonto, the spear. So the spear, because of those pointy, still a beer pot that you can put water inside it and pour. But now I didn't want it to be just a beer pot as normal. All right. We can go ahead. Then I made these. Utunjana. Utunjana, they actually come before the other ones. They're the youngest daughter of the house. So if one of you is the youngest daughter in his family, in her family, then you are Utunjana. So that's how our fathers, grandfathers would say to refer to our little sisters. Don't start with my daughter. Do not, please. That's my father. And that was because my sister was the youngest, so I cannot beat that. I can't beat her even if she says some silly stuff, because she is the yeah, she's the youngest. All right, and then these one are Onozala, a parent, and they gave birth to the smaller ones. And so in these things, I started carving on them, like patterns. So the patterns would just come. Some of them would just come. And then some I would take, like maybe from books, and have a look at patterns and see how I can incorporate them into my work. And so I always try to make different ones. Though sometimes I do repeat those. And then I did twisted constructs. I call them twisted constructs because if you look at buildings, especially in Dubai, they've got all these skyscrapers that are doing such like shapes, impossible stuff that I never thought would happen. There's that building called, I think they used to call it Infinity Tower or something. It twists like that. That was fascinating. Like, how are you guys able to do that? So I got fascinated and looked at buildings, and then I started making these guys over here. All right. And then these, I call them Indoni, the berry of the waters. So I don't know if you know some African countries. I think in Ethiopia they do. You would find people having discs on their lips, those big discs. Sometimes they would be hanging piercings on their ears with big rings and lots of things that's hanging on their bodies. So that was inspired by those people in those countries, and so I did the rings, which I was using. Actually, the rings I was using on cups at first. Then I thought, no, what? Let me do them now on some of my pots, and then try to come and find a way of describing the pots. So I call them Indoni, which is a bit of the waters, which describes the beauty of a woman, how beautiful they are, and then the dignity, all the virtues that the woman has. But then I try not to only specify just the woman. It's anyone. I mean, as long as you are a good person for me, whether I don't know, but those values do count, I think. So those, they represent that. And then I came into Imbizo. So this piece here was also part of that exhibition I talked about, the New Wave, as I was starting out by myself. And I had to put it there because that was the first one that I did. Actually, that was the first biggest piece, and it was that high. And later on, I thought, how do I improve it? Then I started making those ones with the green glaze. So that's the green glaze I was talking about that I have on those teardrops. I started making them with teardrops. I mean, with the green glaze, and I thought I was going to have like a glass table on it. But then we decided, no, let's not put any glasses on those. Let's leave them as side tables like that. with glazes, and then they started moving and into stools. You can do the next one. Into stools. So I started making the stools just for people to sit on, and I improved the color, how it looks, instead of that matte. And then this one, this piece here, I called it Imbizo table set. As I was busy making my ceramics, concentrating only on ceramics, I had a thought of doing a table or big ceramics, right? And an exhibition called Extraordinary came in Southern Guild, and I had to do something extraordinary. And so we came with this idea. So this was supposed to be just ceramic base stools and stuff with just a plain tabletop. But then the gallery co-owner, the guy that was talking to Madoda in that video, that's Julian. He's one of the founders of the guild. He said to me, "No, let's not leave it plain. With your carvings, I think you should carve on the wood." Now the wood, I have never studied anywhere. I have never done wood. I've never carved wood before. Now I had to learn and find out how am I gonna do this thing myself? How am I gonna even carve? So I learned, and then I remembered, you know what? In my studies as a student, we had printmaking where we were doing lino cuts, carving on lino cuts. So I took that tool, that V-shaped tool, and I'm like, let me just try this tool and see if it's gonna work. And I started carving. And so the wood has got grains going that way. So if you go against them, then they give you a trouble. And I tried going there, like, oh, okay, that works. Then I went on and like, oh, okay, this is good. I tried some design, I showed them, and like, oh, no, we're happy, go on. So I put it on wood, and boom, there. Wood has been introduced into my life without going to school. So you can try other stuff. Don't only do just what you've learned. I mean, the lecturers that are here, they would lecture you as much as you can with anything that they can equip you. But then when you're out there making your stuff, then that's when you start opening your mind into other possibilities. That was one of them for me. And so we had a range of Imbizo stools that these ones were did for a lodge in Botswana. Yeah. Then there was this one also. So it's also in that lodge in Botswana. So I call this one, oh, the next one. Oh, why did I put that? Okay. Yeah, this I still call Imbizo. I still did the same carvings and patterns. Okay, you can go to the next one, Ma. So you can skip on these three. Yes. So I've got a whole range of other things like functional stuff, not only just the big pieces, but pieces like that, functional, that I also make. Because remember, I was taught everything at school. My teacher, just one story, he would ask us to make 20 of these in ceramics, put them on the table like this, and then he comes and checks. Okay, no, no, no. And then you're only left with one or two. So the throwing for him was so important that we had to get it right. Which is why everything that you see, or most of the things that you see, I think 95% of the things that you see are all thrown on the wheel. I don't know how good I am, but I try to do my best. I know people always say, master throw, master throw. I'm like, no, I'm not a master, man. There's other people who can make like stuff like that. I'm not there yet. I'm still here. So, so I try to do my best when it comes to throwing or anything that I've been challenged with. Yeah. And the next one, Mo? And then the table started developing. We changed the color, and they started becoming bigger. This one is 3.5 meters. And I said to him, no, 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 no. How about we go, let's just keep it here, small. And I said, no, let's do big ones. So we did this one. Again, and this one's the biggest. I think it's 5 meters long. I think my studio was actually just closed. I couldn't even move around when I was making this one. Also carved same way, same tool, same methods. Put the your design on the floor, see if it works, and then you start drawing it on the table and decide what is going to go, where am I going to carve, where is it going to plane, and all before you start carving. So that's how I did these ones. And then those actually from those like Onozala, the parent, those pots that have got sections like that. We decided to make not to just make a normal legs for the thing. Let's just take something that I have and try and put it there, and boom, it worked. And yeah, and I think it's the last one. Oh, and then develop into chandeliers. Impossible stuff that I never thought I would do. And so this one was the first one. I call it Bane, which is the light. As Madoda had mentioned, we've got a problem of load shedding. So we had to try and see what is it that I can do that can help with that in a way. So candles or rechargeable lights that you can use on chandeliers and stuff. So the next one that I'm busy with now, which is about, it's going to be 1.2 meters wide and 60 centimeters high. It's going to have like rechargeable lights on the candle holders there. All right. So so that, as the question came, what is it that was affecting us all? That was relating to what's happening now. So that's one of the things, the load shedding, as Madoda was saying, for me. And then the tables also moved to granite. This was the first one. So I call this one Nkundla. I don't know. I don't have a translation for Nkundla. Nkundla is where we are right now, I would say. This is Nkundla. I'm standing and I'm addressing people. That means I'm standing in the China. I don't know. That's why I can't explain it. But this is Nkundla, or this is Imbizo also, as you will see the video that I'm going to show you guys. You can go to the next one more. So those are three major techniques that I have, or that I use for my ceramics, with carving wood now, which is the latest one. Throwing, carving, or coiling and everything. All right. Yeah, and goes. That's thank you. Yeah, so that's me. That is me. Thank you so much.
What are you planning to do during your stay in Gmunden?
Oh yes. So here, I'm still gonna do those the smoke-fired, the ones with the earrings and stuff. I want to also develop them somehow. And the other thing that I wanted to do also is see what I can do with an African warrior, like ancient African warriors with their decorations that they have, armor that they use. Not that I'm going to put armor onto the pot or anything, but I want to see what I can do with that, just to move a little bit further with what I've been doing lately. And then also I will also try and develop like the stools and see if there's a way of incorporating the headrest, those headrests that we have, and see if I can put them on the stools to be armrests instead. So we'll see. That's one of the things that I'm trying to do. Yeah, and then as for everything else, I mean, what I'm telling you now could change as the day goes by. So yeah, but that's the plan for now. Yeah, and probably make, I don't know, we'll see. Yes, thank you.
My name is Maweni. I'm a ceramic artist working in Cape Town, South Africa. These are the Imbizo tables. The combination of thrown ceramics and hand-carved wood. I think when I get to decorate the tabletops, I try to see the finished product, how it's going to look like at first before I even put the pattern on. So I try to just try and think forward instead of just relying on tradition only. So I have to just find the balance between the two, that's all. When I'm at the wheel, I'm totally in the moment and I try not to think about anything else. Imbizo is a Xhosa word meaning gathering of many, and I would like to see people gathering around my table.
Yeah, that's it. All right, thank you. I hope this was informative. I hope you guys take something, I don't know. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
So this is the one we are missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I, because...
Do you want?
Yeah, because Andile, I met him
asked us
a long time ago. We used to go to school together, so he trusts me enough to speak about him. But if he was here, he can speak about himself like better than I would do. Yeah, but I met this guy in 1996 when I started at the college in Sivile College, because I'm from the township. So the college is also in my township. So I would walk to school. So when I got there, we were taught drawing and all those kind of subjects. In the class of drawing, we were given still life. They would put in some apples, bananas, grapes, and all that to draw that. So I excelled on those, you know. So my still life would take like 2 hours. Some people, they would take 2 days. So 2 hours, I would do like 3 still lifes in a day, you know. So I was like feeling like a boss in my school. So I would go early, come in late, but finish up very quickly. And then one day I came in, there was this amazing still life that I just saw in my class. And I'm like, who is this now? And everybody's like, hey, there's this fun boy that just came in now. Because they came in late at school, you know, about February. It didn't start in January. So they came and I was like, because now I had to pull up my socks now because I was like very lazy at school because I felt like I'm the one who's better, you know. So we had a very, very nice competition between me and him. At first, I didn't like him because like now he's spoiling you know, everything for me. But yeah, Andile he's been a good friend since 1996. We met and we sort of grew up together because when he started his company, I was still working for the potter shop. But he was the person that always said to me, listen, stop working for that person now, just do your own thing. You know, so he inspired me to do that. You know, as I was saying that he's from the farms, so his language, his Xhosa language, Chuma probably will help me out on some other titles of his work because he uses all this deep, because I'm from the city, so we always mix the language. But my language is mixed with Afrikaans, English, you know, and all that. But he speaks like real Xhosa, you know. So yeah, so he was born in the Eastern Cape, in the village called Kobokobo. Yeah. So when we met, because I was born in the city, I've never visited the villages. And I was always feeling like people from the villages are backwards, they're slow and all that. You used to tease them. Up until Andile convinced me to go to the village and have a look at the life, you know. So he took me one December when we were closed schools and he was visiting home. So he took me with, you know, so I remember I stayed there a day. I'm like, no, I can't take this, you know, because you see only one person from like 10 miles away And where are the other people, you know, said, no, wait for Christmas, they will come. They're still in the cities, I believe, waiting for Christmas. No ways. So but as the time goes, as I was inspired by him, I'm now a village boy myself, because I had to go back to my village and like look at my roots, meet people that knew my parents. So now I'm also that kind of a person who visits villages almost every time.
I think we can go through his works, and there's a video in the back.
Okay.
And there Andile is speaking.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because this is a work that he did for Tel Aviv. This is quite recent. This was for Miami, I think, last year. And also what inspired me about his work, he now is mixing like clay with bronze. Because if you look at this, there's like kind of hairy parts there. Those are bronze plates that he had to also go to a blacksmith, you know, hammer them himself. I remember he had blisters in his hands when he did this. But this is a recent work. I think he did this last year. Yeah, yeah. There's 3 sets here. Itongo. Also, I was fortunate to go and visit his home, which the exhibition started from home. Because from Transkei to Cape Town, it's quite a difficult journey, especially with ceramic. But he had to insist that this must start from where I grew up, from the kraal, because in the rural areas where they keep the cows in the kraal, and there's a lot of things that are happening there, like the ceremonies are happening there. So I think for him to honor his family and his heritage, he decided to do that, to take the work to the villages. As you can see here, this is the kraal that from his home. So all these chairs, they were representing Itongo. Itongo, it's a dream, when you translate it. So that the title of the exhibition was called Itongo, a dream. And also, what was nice about it, he invited all of his family and some of the people from the village to sit on them, because they were going to New York. So also to have that energy of the space and the people that attended the ceremony. This is him. Okay, this is a other series, Idladla. Idladla, it's a silo. It's a silo where people would keep the grain. Sometimes before, if it's winter, so that if it's winter, so that they can be able to manage to get food afterwards. And this is Tamagu. Tamagu, which means gratitude. Yeah. No video. Okay. Yeah, but I'm sure his presence when he's here, it's very, yeah. You will see him when he's here.
He has a great presence, and he's also very spiritual in a way. How he connects with this very rural tradition he comes out.
Yes.
As you pointed out, with stools and with this coming together.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just to add a little bit, Itongo, as what I said, it's a dream. So in Itongo, you get messages from your ancestors of what you want to do, what you need to do. So that was a message that he got from his ancestors, that he needs to take his pieces all the way to Kobo and do that exhibition there before they can be seen by the world. So they have to be blessed in a way by his ancestors. So that's how deep he is in his culture. And he came back and he did the same setup in the gallery over there. Yeah. And I think every stool has got it's a symbol on the wall over there. this wall over here. So all of those are actually in that on the stools, and they all have their own meanings. I don't know if you've got pictures of that, but they all have their own meanings there. Yeah. Like this one, for instance, it's called Utyani, which is vegetation, and that one is Umchayelo, the broom, and then that one is Izilo, which is a totem animals. So and that's a horn over there, I think. So yeah, so that's so his work is always has got a certain meaning that he will only be able to describe to everyone. I can't. So yeah.
About the wood carving, I would have a question. Do you do it with also the machine you make the clay? Or do you have, or how do you do the wood, the round wood carving?
So all of that is all by hand. And to get the round, I use we call it a compass. That pointy thing, and then you put your pencil, what do you call it? Yeah. Then you just do that, and you get those using that.
With the clay, you can make the thingy, I don't know what it's called, wie heißt das, wo man das so hindreht? Turntable? The turntable.
The potter's wheel, yeah.
Right? For the clay.
Yeah.
And with the wood, you just really carve round by round?
Yeah, I just carved by hand, all of that by hand. So.
Yeah, or the stools, the round stools.
So on the stools, there's a tool that I have that you saw that I was using. That's how I get all those lines and ridges. And then there's another tool that I use for carving, doing that texture.
Yeah. No, I was interested in the lines. The other one, you kind of.
So with the wood, yes. So I start with the drawing first, as I said, and then take a knife, like a strong stainless steel knife, and try and cut those lines first, and all of them. So that process on the big table took me a week to do. Because firstly,
it's also a full amount. The wood is kind of one piece, right?
It's one piece, yes. It's one piece. So you would do that. So that would take a week, and it kills your wrist. So I have to be careful with that. So I always just put a lot of support on my wrist, so that I'm able to, and also use this hand to control the other one, just like I do with turning. Because when I'm turning, I have to support this with that. And then after that, I come back with that V-shaped tool and start carving. I've had blood. I mean, my thumb at some point was cut because I was just going on and on. Like, this is good, this is good. Then later on I realized, my thumb is actually cut and there was blood coming out. Then I had to find a way of protecting that. And then you just go and go and go and go. So a process like that, that big table took me 2 months to finish. That includes doing the design on the table and deciding that, which took a week, and then another week to do all the outlining, and then 6 weeks doing the carving. So yeah, I also give myself a break, go sleep and just do nothing. And when I'm sleeping, everything just comes in, like go and finish that table, go and finish that table. So I already see the table that it's going to look like by the time it's done. So yeah, that's that, yeah.